everybody. It's Joe and Abbey again.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So we had some good questions. We're going to answer 2 of these on the last video. Thank you for the comments. And I'm going to read this first one. And Joe and I were kind of talking here before we got started what kind of direction we wanted to take with this message. And we're thinking about what is real, what is not real, and how would you define that? And especially when it comes to what is a practical human world, what is logic, and then what is a spirit realm exactly? What is an astral plane exactly? What is a fictional character and then a real person? And could a fictional character be a real consciousness in the universe even? So
we're going to answer the 2 questions. So I'm going to journey into the Watchers, and Abby's going to journey into Einstein. And so, but we're going to answer the first question, which is a little less, little more easier to answer, is that's the best way to describe, because the other question is complex.
Yeah. All right. So here's the question. Do you have to do grounding and energy clearing before you journey or do anything spiritual?
I'm going to take this first.
Yeah,
and then
go for it.
After me. And it's a very good question. And it's basically, it's what your fear level is. If you have no fear, you don't need to do a whole bunch of things for going into a journey. If you have fear, I would recommend either using crystals, smudging, any type of protective things that you feel that you need. And that's perfectly okay. Because you have to feel no fear in order to do these journeys, because if you're fearful, I would recommend not doing a journey until you can get control over that specific fear. And if you need to hold the crystal to do that, go ahead. And because fear is the one thing that will manipulate your journey into something that is not necessarily direction you want to go into, because energies that are negative, so to speak, will take on to that fear and turn it into things that will manipulate you. If that's one way of describing it. So it could get much worse than that. So fear is the one thing you cannot have inside yourself when you do a journey. So whatever you need to protect yourself from that, then great. But there's also shamans out there that are very ritually orientated, which is perfectly fine as well, because it is a lot of deep meaning in rituals before you do it. And I'm not going to say that is right or wrong. It is exactly what they need to do before they do their specific type of work, because that is ingrained into thousands of years of history. It is a complex question as well, because when you start getting into culture and history of what it is and why they do it, it's up to the individual and up to the culture and why they do it. Because if you want to know why a shaman does, ask a shaman, because they're the best ones to give you the answer to that specific question of why they have so many rituals in order to before they go on a journey. But that is perfectly fine, because that is a lifetime commitment in a specific field. For myself, when I go on a journey, I specifically go in right away. If I feel inside myself I need to have something, then now that would be something my intuition would tell me before I go on that journey. And is that protection, or is that something that is going to help me on that journey? It's something that is there to help you, and it opens doorways as well and makes you feel at peace and makes you feel full of love. So I would say yes to that question, and no, depending on individual.
So I have a couple different thoughts. One was, if you are afraid to work with a spiritual, sense of connection. So there was also a comment here about meditation and giving into that meditative state out of fear. And so the fear itself is actually calling for you. It's actually saying, hello, I'm here. And you'll either decide that you're ready to face the fear, or you'll decide that the fear is not something you want to work on right now. Maybe you've decided it's too much work, or you have no idea how to work on it. So you would then avoid meditation. Now, if you say that, let's say crystals help me to feel confident against the way that fear makes me feel. So I'm going to give into the power of this black tourmaline, and now I feel safe when I go into meditation. That's actually empowering your process. That's saying, you know what, I am afraid, but if I have this black tourmaline, I feel like it's protecting me. And so I'm going to give into that, and then I'm going to see where this takes me. So that is actually helping you take the steps that you need to become more open, spiritually connected. And I feel like that's excellent. Now, you were saying, Joe, about how sometimes if you let the fear come in, it can kind of guide what your experience is going to be like. And that's true, because on a level, let's say you gave into the meditation, but the fear was overwhelming. So what are you going to experience from that meditation? It's actually an opportunity to face the fear. So what is beyond the fear is probably where you want to get to. So now if you can give in, which what my recommendation is, and this is kind of fun and creative, actually, if you're ready to face a kind of fear when it comes to spiritual protection, you would actually have to just sit down for a minute, consciously choose, close your eyes, and say, okay, what is it that I'm afraid of out there? And if you could make it feel like it's far away from yourself, like it's an external thing. Well, I'm afraid of demons. But the reality is you don't really know what a demon is. It's just an idea right now, real versus what's not real. So you could say, I'm afraid of demons. Well, what's a demon? Well, it's an evil spirit. Well, what's an evil spirit? That's simply an idea because it's out there, right? You don't know what it is until you've actually developed a relationship with the meaning of what it is. So if you could feel the fear coming out from inside yourself, there's two different things going on here. When it's coming out from inside yourself, you could say, okay, this fear feels like a big black hole. Okay, now you take that big black hole from inside yourself and you put some glasses on and a funny mustache, and now you talk to it and as though it is an external thing, and then say, why am I afraid of you? What is it that you're reminding me of? And so you're starting to deal with it. You're starting to face it in a different way. Take it from inside to outside. Or if it's outside and I don't understand it, you're going to have to find a way to know that you're a part of literally everything and put yourself out there into expanding the perimeters of your safety space, okay? Because the more that you realize that you are full of light and your light is ridiculously powerful, those are just words right now, until you actually become a part of the reality of those words. Did you want to say something?
It's just interesting when you think something is going to be easy to answer, and then you answer and it's like, oh God, this is like really more complex than we thought. And it's an interesting conversation because it starts to open up many, many, many different doors about what it is to be afraid. And what that means. And it's true, you have to face your fears. If you're in a dream, you turn around and face it, face your nightmare, and your nightmare will end. And so that is like fear is one of those things you have to face in order to grow. If you face your fears, you will grow. If you run from your fears, you'll stay the same. And in some cases, you might even go backwards depending on how much you allow those fears to take over yourself.
Something I wanted to mention about this is true whether it's human life, regular old human life, people that give you the heebie-jeebies, like maybe, and they're just kind of around, like maybe you need to face them and find out what this is really about. Communication, facing a fear of leaving your job and going to try some new job. But you're going to find out inside your heart, in the practical human world, is this a fear I'm ready to face right now? Or is it not? Is it even a fear? Maybe I'm just thinking practically. But there was something else I wanted to say, because our fears as human beings and then our fears of the spirit realm, they can parallel, and then what you're ready to face when it comes to those fears. But I thought that maybe it'd be interesting for people to hear about how we developed, comfort and strength and just being ourselves when it comes to doing spiritual work. Because I don't need to do, at this point, I am so confident and strong in my light and what I do that I am full-fledged like my own black tourmaline. I am full-fledged the light of source, so I don't need to do anything extra because I don't have any belief systems that are getting in the way of me knowing who and what I am. And that's my power.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started to do journeys, and one of the things I started to use is I was always using a sword or a spear or something in energy world in order to break down energy, in order to, you could say, even fight spirits and in that way. And the other thing is I used to do a lot of like ritual type protections before I started. I even was told to make a specific a walking stick in a way that holds specific energy, and by taking and building it in this world, I was able to use it in the spirit realm, as well as an actual and an older, like something that came to my mind a long time ago about something that represents the meaning of Amun-Ra. So I created that itself, and I used to wear that all the time, and I still do periodically. But you rise above all that to the point where you don't need it, because when you start to rise and realize that love is the weapon, then it doesn't matter. You don't need weapons anymore, because love itself, it's not just the love, it's the love and the belief and of what it is that you can do and who you are, that is now the weapon, that nothing can harm you, nothing, you can use that to break down any energy. It's interesting because the more you do the work, you will be guided into specifically what to do. So if your guides are telling you to have a black tourmaline, to do sage, smudging, it goes on and on and on, the different things that you can do prior, then do it. Because that's what you need right now in order to grow your strength, in order to be able to continue to do your journeys. And at some point in time, you're able to walk away from that, then walk away. If you use it your whole life, then that's perfectly fine, because that's what you're meant to use to do the journey work. So there is no right or wrong answer in that. It's just you do what you're guided to and what you feel comfortable that you have to do at that time.
Yeah.
So.
Something that comes to me about this, I always had like a confidence when it came to communicating with the energy world. I was never afraid of it until I started to grow with doing this work professionally. And part of that is, and I think this is why when it comes to human evolution or ascension, it seems like a very slow process, because when you start to be instantaneously exposed, it's going to freak out your ego, and your ego is quite a powerful tool, and it can create illusions that will imprison you and keep you from actually moving forward. So I had almost a full year in there with a psychic attack experience that was attracting even more negativity from the universe, but a lot of that was centralized and inspired from my own ego, and I didn't realize that until later, that I was forced into a scenario where I had no choice but to figure this out, or I felt like I was going to die, okay? And that is part of my learning. That was part of my growth. It wasn't because I wasn't protecting myself. I was just full-blown exposed to what I was doing in the energy world in a way that my body wasn't prepared for it. And what I learned from that was that what makes me laugh? What makes me silly? What makes me childlike? And when I go into my senses, like inside myself, I'm full of senses. Not like eyeballs and ears that hear, but I'm full of senses, right? And so what was scaring and ripping me apart is what it felt on the inside. Once I found the courage to be myself with it, I started to be in control. I started to be safe being me, no matter what was going on. And that was my empowerment. And that was my, you could say, ascension, or my ability to, I guess, balance or harmonize out that growth in myself. So is protection merely your ego is trying to hold you back and you need to baby step through it? Sometimes you're going to be thrown right into the boiling water and you're screaming like, what the heck is going on here? And the main tool is to be yourself, and to be joy and to be laughter as a sensation, as laughter as pure love that wants to cheer up that suffering sound, okay? And it'll come from inside, and it might project as something that's out there. But the more that you are you and shine your light in a genuine way, with true, honest understanding of what that is, because you developed a relationship with it, not just words spoken.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
I know I'm talking.
I just had something that come to me.
Yeah,
about
tell me.
Something I'm going to do in the future. That's okay. It was about the
You
journey.
got inspiration.
No, it was because we were going to do the Watchers, and I was starting to connect onto that energy. But anyway, it's okay. So I think we should. I think that
Yes.
question is
Yeah.
well. We can move on to the next one.
Okay, so the next one, this is also, it's a really good topic because this next question is about what's real or, let me get it out here. Okay, this is what you were saying, that you needed validation, and you said, is what happens in astral world real or lucid real? I don't know how to ask. I know what you're saying though. So let's say, and Joe would have a lot of experience with this because Joe's been pulled into the astral plane many times at night, whereas I am projecting my consciousness into spaces, which is what we do when we do journeys. So what is real, and how do we know it's real? And what is lucid real? And what is a dream state? And what is that real? So I'm gonna let you talk.
Oh God, a lot of stuff happened in my life. One of the things when I get pulled into an astral, I call it the mirror dimension astral plane. It really depends on what you want to call it. I believe they're similar and one and the same. It is completely, utterly more real than here, it seems like, because the energy's constantly, you hear the energy, you sense the energy, you feel, and things are heightened at a level that are nowhere near this on Earth. It's really quiet here compared to there. So it is very, very complex because I believe everything is real. There's nothing that isn't real. Everything is energy, everything's alive, everything is moving. Like you could say, when you write a book, the characters become real somewhere because you are actually getting the understanding of what that is through you could say through your imagination, through your third eye. It comes into you write a book, the ideas are flowing from somewhere. But because you're writing it and you're putting energy into it, you are actually a creator and creating the characters in the book in some form of reality. It is so ridiculously complex when you get into what our minds can do, what we believe, and what is real. Because you look at a rock, does a rock has a soul? Some people say, no, a rock doesn't have a soul. You talk to the First Nations, a rock definitely has a soul. It has a spirit or connection. And they can actually go into the creator to answer your questions, to take away your burdens, and you could go on and on and on. So to them, they are very much real and very much alive. Everything on the earth is alive. Everything in the universe is alive. Why somebody else might not believe that. So it's the simple question is to you, to me, is that I believe everything is real. And because it's created, and once you create it, it becomes real. If you create a house, a carpenter builds a house. When that house is long gone, the energy is still there. You could actually go back to that house at any time and walk through the whole place, if you believe you can, and experience it like you would experience it like living on this earth now. And because we know we're eternals, and like, well, at least most people watching our videos understand that we are eternal. So what does that actually mean? Well, if this physical world is real and we go to a spiritual world and that's real, so the question is, yes, everything is real. So, I mean, that's the direct thing. But what we're going to do is I'm going to do a journey into Watchers, because that is something that some people might not believe is real.
Okay, I need you to tell me what Watchers is. Joe's like, okay, I know what my intuition is saying, Abby, the Watchers and Albert Einstein.
Again, it depends on who you talk to. Some people believe the Watchers are fallen angels. Some people believe they're a different form of angel. And some people believe they're the Watchers of the universe. So there's many different versions of Watchers and the understanding of what they are.
I have to say something. I thought the Watchers was like Watchmen. Like, I was like, is that movie? Is that like... So thank you for explaining that to me.
Some people believe that Lucifer, for instance, is a Watcher.
Okay.
And all the fallen angels are Watchers. And like I guess one example is when you watch that Noah... the big rock creatures were basically Watchers, which are fallen angels. So that's the interesting part, because I mean, like anything else, what is a watcher? And this is what we're going to go into. So we'll find out what the journey is. But you need to say something.
I need some more clarification here. So this is new to me, by the way. Okay, so a watcher even exists today. Like there are like immortal beings that are watching over us,
the balance of the
right
universe.
Now.
Yes.
And are they cosmic, or are they part of the earth, or are they blending in?
Well, it depends on which one you go to, because I had some that are very close to God and some that are not. So what version is that going to be? When I was just thinking about them, I had one here burning my shoulder and the other one was full of light. And that in itself is a given example of who the watchers are. There's light and there's dark. And there's some that are above and some that are cosmic. So it's a very complex thing, because there always is spirits watching over the balance of the universe and the balance of the earth, the balance within ourselves. So you could say that there's so many complex levels of what a watcher is, but one thing it should never be is believe that it's one specific thing.
Okay, that's so legit. I wanna say something really quick as a side note, because okay, so sometimes we feel very convinced that we know something. And this is the one and only way that it could be. And if we see people don't know what we know, then they're the ones that are wrong. But if we realize that we all know something and that we can learn and grow together from one logical knowing or one truth, can expand like the branches of a tree to new levels of knowing. You know what I mean? Because let's say we're evolving, and now suddenly we know the color spectrum is as it is today, right? And it's definitely that. But then we're starting to realize that there are colors that we can't see. Now let's say we evolve into seeing colors that never existed before. Now the whole meaning of energy healing with colors is going to be transformed from what made sense to something new. You see? So when you start to open up to the reality that all things are like a portal to transform your world and to know things in a new way and to growing in the meaning of so much, because this is such an infinite universe of knowing. I mean, I think this Watchers thing, I'm really curious to see where this goes, because for me it's like, oh man, this is going to be so expanded, it's going to be so interesting.
Well, I have no idea what to expect. And I think that's the cool thing about journeying, is that you got this idea, okay, this is what it's going to be, and it's like, oh my God, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm curious, do you guys feel like there are watchers, and why do you feel that way? What do you feel like they would be like? Evil watchers, benevolent watchers, and what if there are no watchers at all? Like, what would that mean? You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And I'm going to do Albert Einstein.
Do you want me to do it?
You go first.
Okay. So they want me to go back to the first part of when I was starting to connect to them, and there was a red energy that touched my shoulder and was burning it, but then you can simply just change your energy so they don't have any ability to burn you. So it's like you can either experience things like a physical person, or you can experience things with no feelings at all. You can adjust your energy to either get burnt or not get burnt. But the understanding of getting burnt is there. And I think that's more important, because you don't want to sit there and be burnt or be frozen or whatever. You won't be able to go through the journey correctly. So you understand that this being represents burning and the other being represents light and love. So I meant to take these two and I meant to push them together, and they start to form into something really messed up. But then I have a ball of light that I place in front of their head, and they become a different being of light that now is light and dark, and it shoots off into the heavens. So this is the first thing they want me to show you about watchers. And so that in itself is what? The importance of balancing a light and dark side to yourself. And because once you do that, you become something new, something more interesting. And now these beings become another level of a watcher. So there's two different types of watchers on this earth right now. One of being of darkness and fire, and the other being of light. And when you're able to combine them parts, or they combine themselves, they become another level of watcher, which now watches over them. So, and from there, it becomes much more cosmic. You become more of a cosmic being. It's just interesting how that's coming to be. The question they want me to ask you, is that real or not real to yourself? Are the beings a representation of your own soul, or is it a representation of other souls? So when you say watcher is something that watches over something. Well, these parts of the soul are watching over the dark and light side of yourself. And when they come together and when they're set free, then you become more of a cosmic being and become more powerful in the sense of what your understanding is. Because when you control both energies, and it's control, because when they're merged together, it takes a balancing to be able to bring them together. So the orb of light that he placed in created the ability of these two specific energy sources to become and work as one. So that's 3 energy sources, and it's important that you understand that it's not simply just light and dark. There is another source of energy that combines them together so they can work together. And I'm going off and following this other version of watchers that went up into the cosmos, because they're telling me the ones on Earth are simply just reflections of ourselves. So what we would call fallen angels are falling parts of ourselves that are now light and dark. Now, are the angels come down to this world are falling? And they said yes and no. Because even the angels that fell have a light and dark side. They didn't simply become just total darkness. So there was always a light side of themselves, and like Lucifer has a light and dark side because he has to in order to be able to do his work. But there's a very bright side of Lucifer, and there's a very dark side of Lucifer. And Lucifer is stuck on this world and not able to become one and whole until we become one and whole and we all go together. So his sacrifice to this world is to be able to wait and take on a lot of the burdens until we're able to move past this place. And they're telling me that a lot of souls come here specifically to teach people how to do this, because Lucifer cannot leave here, and he's very well missed in the cosmos, in the sense that these parts of himself need to come together and he needs to be freed from this earth. Now, is he only on this earth? It doesn't matter. They're telling me that right there in this conversation, he is one with this earth. And until we grow, he is committed to stay here until that time, till every last soul is free to move, and then he's free to leave. And that's the burden that he took on. So I'm following, and that's that. And I'm following these other being. It's really far away, and I see a massive orb of light. And there's an island, so to speak, just outside of this, and there's a castle here, a massive building, and this soul goes into this building, and I go into this. I'm coming into the same place that he went, and I'm standing at the doorway, and the doorways is like multiple colors, and it changes. So when you go to walk in, the colors will change, and the door stays locked. It seems like there's a constant flowing of energy that prevents just anyone from coming in. So you have to change your frequency to the colors of the door. You have to change the look of yourself to match the door in order to go through it. And this is what my soul is telling me. And the door is constantly changing color, so you only have a split second to go in. So I have to change my energy field to look just like the door, and that's what I do, and I'm able to walk through the door. And this is an important thing to understand, is that you have to listen to what your soul is saying. Otherwise, you'd go to the door and not be able to come in, so you were never able to enter this place. You have to listen to the subtle frequencies of what is being said to you. I'm walking forward, and the ground itself is, interestingly enough, it is all snakes. And there's a walkway that walks pure white energy, and you walk above the snakes. And the snakes are intermixed with the bottom part of the white walkway. So underneath the white walkway, the snakes, and they're telling me this is 2 different dimensional spaces. You can go to the dark side or stay above the light, into the light, so which is, I'm walking on the light. I could flip it and I'll be walking in the dark, and the snakes would literally be like as you're walking by, the snakes will be up to your knees and sometimes up to your head, and you're walking through a walkway full of snakes that they can bite you or not bite you. It's like depending on whether or not they accept you or not. And you can flip back up, and you're up into a realm of light. So these watchers are of light and dark, and they believe in the importance of both, because each one has a specific learning, and they are here to keep the balance of the light and the dark. Not destruction of one or the other, but the balance of it. Because when you flip into the dark side, if you can walk through the snakes without them biting you, then you are in control of the dark side of yourself. If you're constantly being attacked and you can't go forward, it means you're not in control of the dark side of who you are. And I flip it back into the light, and I'm walking down the corridor, and there's a person standing on the end. And I flip back, and I can see the same person is a dark figure with dark energy flowing from him. And it's like he has very big, long teeth and flowing hair that is like black energy. And I flip back, and then again it's more angelic looking. It does not have wings though, but has beautiful energy that flows off his back. So when you look in the front, he looks like a very beautiful man, and the energy that flows in behind flows back about 50 feet and is constantly moving and flowing. It's just the opposite when you flip back the other way. It's this darkness that does the same thing. So they're asking me which side do I want to speak to, and I choose the light side of what needs to be said, and I might even choose the dark. But I'm choosing, interestingly, I need to ask both. And I actually changed my mind when I say this, and I want to go to the dark side to see what they have to say. So I stand in front of this being. It's like probably 30, 40 feet tall. And I ask him why he's so tall. And it's like, he says, like, it's almost like the question itself makes no sense, because your size is irrelevant when it comes to energy. And that was one of the tests, so to speak, because if you're afraid, he will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. But if you're not afraid, he'll become the same size as you. And it's important, he says it's important because when you are in control of the dark side of yourself, the dark side is balanced and will, in a sense, behave. is the best way to try to understand what he is. It's way more complex than that, but it's kind of what it is. He will actually be respectful to you. He respects a person that has their darkness in balance. And everybody has work to do, but the idea is that you are working on it, and then that's the most important thing. He actually takes me and shows me a hallway, and it's full of many different things like desires and things like that. And I simply go past all that to one specific door. I say, I want to go through this door. And again, he just looks at me and he raises an eyebrow and says, why not the other ones? And I say, because that's not what I seek. I know what I seek, and it's behind this door. And I open it up, and I see it's black, and it has like I'm walking into this doorway, and it's dark in here, and there's a seat, and I sit down, and I simply just sit down on this it's more like a stump in a way. I sit down on the stump, and there's a fire that appears, and it's like a campfire, and there's a family sitting around, and we're all talking, and we're telling stories, and the stars above us, and they're really beautiful. And there's a being that flies down, that lands beside us, and he gives gifts of starlight, but I don't know, this is what is coming up to me right now. And he sprinkles the starlight on all the person, like my family that's in front of me, and they all start to glow really bright, and I say thank you. And the being behind me is standing behind me. They said, well, you didn't receive a gift. And I said, the gifts that I want is for my family and not myself. And he just stares and looks, and the family disappears. And he's standing really, really tall again, and I'm as tall as he is, and we're walking down a corridor, and he's talking, and now we're standing in front of the being of light, and we're sitting together at a table, and we're having a conversation about what is important. This dark part is completely no negative energy coming from whatsoever. It's nothing but love and respect. And because a person chooses to see things for what they really are, and not full of fear, you're able to speak to both sides of yourself. And you start to learn that the darkness isn't bad. It is full of love and full of interesting things and peace and happiness, as much as the being of light offers. And both of these, they're creating something, and they're whispering to each other, and they're creating like it's like a chain, and it's like a rope chain, and they're both of them are working together to create this. And this chain is to be put to the earth. And so I take this chain, I place it into the center of the earth, and then both of these beings, they're pulling on this chain, and there's the energy of the earth that comes to where they're at, and this orb of light shines really, really, really super bright. It's like it's you could say that the orb itself is the creator of all things, and this creator wraps a white light around the earth, and absorbs, and the earth becomes really bright. And then we place this back into the earth itself, and the earth itself shakes as the closer I get. The world is shaking, and the world is dark, because this orb is so bright. This world that I'm holding, the reflection of this world is so bright. The world that we live in looks dark, and as closer I get, the world is shaking more and more and more and more and more. And I place both together, and there's a massive explosion. And I'm sitting, looking out onto a lake, and I see different time frames go by, from morning to night, spring to fall to winter. And I watch this cycle in summer, and I watch the cycle go by and by and by. And it's just like you start to get older and older and older, and then you're an old man, and you're looking out onto the lake, and you spent this whole time just looking over the lake. And you spent your whole life here. And now you die, so you walk out into the water, and you sit down, and you just go under the water, and you become part of the lake. You feed the fish, your soul becomes part of the water, and the water becomes part of the universe, and you become part of the universe. And then all of a sudden you're appearing back at the table with these two watchers. And they say this is what it is like to watch over a soul on earth. For us, it goes by quickly, and we watch a soul from a baby till it gets old and dies and becomes part of the universe and ends up back at this place. And then we talk, we discuss, and then at that point in time, the soul chooses what it needs to do next, and then from there, the next task is done. It's like the soul itself chooses to do a specific task. There is no forcing back. It is what it is. It needs to be done, and then there's a choice that is made, and an agreement is put forward, and the soul chooses to go specifically in a specific place and time, and is reborn. And then again, your soul, you go from young to old and die. And this is happening all over the universe, all over the multiverse. That's the message.
That was really good.
I'm losing my voice though.
Man, I don't even know if I could channel Albert Einstein now, because I'm just like in another world about these watchers. That's really refreshing.
It just
made me feel peaceful, to be honest. It made me feel like, you know how when we look at the world today through human eyes and we see, day by day, month by month, and the decisions and the news and all this stuff, and then you hear about the watchers and do this journey with Joe, and it's like, you know what? This whole world is in the palm of hands that we can't even conceive are there. Does that mean they're real?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just a comfort thing that we need? I feel that there's real value, energetic value to remembering the harmony and the balance that exists despite what information is being presented through, media, mouth to mouth, like words. You know what I mean? I guess that's why we gravitate toward spiritual eyesight, because we know it's not just this. There's so much more than just this,
Yeah, messages go into the soul to teach us how to grow and expand and what to do next.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's going to be 100% real.
Yeah.
But it is real in a way, because you just experienced it, so it's real.
Yeah.
If you didn't experience it, it's not real to you.
Right.
So everybody that watches this video is going to experience that as a real thing, and the people that don't will never know.
Right.
So is it real to them? It could be. It could. All the energy could. We're all interconnected. So every single soul in the universe experienced that journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real to everyone.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about just when we were talking about this topic in general is sometimes we have to work with something, and then that something molds and shapes us into the next meaning of who we are. And so if we were to define as real or not real, we have to work with some ideas or some meaning, right? That makes us work from our heart, or makes us work from our head, or makes us avoid, or whatever. We work with a meaning, and then that meaning helps us to grow into the next meaning of who and what we are. So whether this is a matrix world, or it's Earth and Watchers, or it's like the meaning is the reality and the thread of our growth. Development, and I feel like the meaning of love is the most beautiful, because love is everything, though. It's not just about let's do nice things for each other forevermore, because that's the solution. It's like genuine exchanges and valuing of what makes people like one thing over another thing. Like if all we had was, I don't know, strawberry ice cream, I wouldn't be thrilled about that, because I like chocolate. So so that's why we have to love each other for our differences, and that's not darkness. That's actually diversity, and it's beautiful, And
but you still got to do Einstein.
I know. You guys ready for Einstein?
He won't stop jumping up and down on the line. He's like, Abbey.
I will say Einstein is really funny.
Yes.
He is a really funny guy. He's really exciting to
Hmm.
connect with, really interesting and entertaining. So I'm going to relax and let's see what he has to say. I really have to disconnect from that Watchers thing. That really reached me in my heart. So I'm going to like forget about everything here so I can get into the zone properly. Okay. This is perfect. That's what Albert Einstein says, because I'm telling him that I feel like I'm kind of a liquid and I'm all over the place, and I'm like, parts of me are just like in deep, like, if I could be 1,000 parts of myself from that message, every part of me is digesting it with new information and new ideas, and then we're communicating with each other. I feel like Albert Einstein is showing me a human mind, like and I'm not a medical professional here. I don't know all the technical language, but the mind has all these like branches of a tree that are sending information all over the place. And I experience it as like droplets of a soul, and the soul is like this body of water, and then it has, you could say, then many drops of water, and the many drops of water are choosing to have a certain identity of expression, although it comes from the same pond, right? The soul. And within that soul there's all these like you might see an image of the brain at work, and it's got these like golden like synapses or whatever they call it, and it's like pew 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 pew, all these beacons of information. And I see that the soul, this pond here, the droplets are doing that. Okay, they're sending information. And so Albert Einstein and I are looking at this, and then thus looking at myself as I'm still in the process and digestion of the message that Joseph had to share. And so that's digesting information. It's digesting information. And I can't just force that digestion and just forget about it. I just have to like disconnect myself. However, he wants to use this as part of his message. And I'm in a state of digestion. And there's information collected and analyzed individually like droplets in the pond of my soul and communicating. All right. He has like a bunch of things to say. Okay. Okay, the next thing is very difficult. It was interesting because he's like, yes, all this information. I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. It just sounded like blank to me. But that's the next part of where we're going with this. All right, so this is how the scene looks. The scene that I described is basically on the lower floor, like let's say floor number 1. Now, floor number 2 is where this next bit of information is that we're going to be able to translate and then present it. But right now, I don't have the means. My consciousness has not evolved, or I'm still in the box of where I have been. I haven't expanded the box, or I haven't gotten outside the box to be able to interpret what is beyond myself. So right now, I don't know what he's saying because I can't conceive of it, because I just simply can't conceive of it. But he says, yes. We need to work with the things that we can't conceive of what they are yet. And he's like, then how do we know? How do we know what the things are that we can't conceive yet? He says, now you know that it's like, okay, what we know, holy smokes. Okay, what we know and what we're certain that we know actually is based upon the first floor of a massive building of knowing. And what we need to be working with is what we can't conceive of yet. Now, how do you go from floor number 1, what we know, all this interesting droplets of water communicating about what we know based upon what is our memory, based upon what is our relationship with what we know. Now, floor number 2 is we can't conceive of it yet. So how do we go beyond? How do we get past that ceiling to the next floor of awareness? This is important. It's almost like you should be thinking about what you don't know. You should be asking yourself, what do I not know today? And trying to pinpoint an avenue of expansion that is beyond the knowing of any human being as of yet on our whole planet. I mean, he's talking about, you won't find this in any library. He wants you to be exploring what you can't find in any library as of yet, and you hold the book inside of your soul. And your soul remembers. So what are we working with here? What the brain knows, or are we working with what the soul knows? And what is the reality based upon what the brain knows, and what is the reality based upon what the soul knows? That's why he's like, like his energy is like, I'm so excited right now about this. Oh my God. Oh man, if I could show you in a picture, it's just, it's like all over the place excited to talk right now. Okay. So I am on floor number 2 and I'm looking around like, I don't know what's in here. I don't know what's in here. Okay. So we're going to try to conceive of something that we don't know. He says, okay, forget about what your brain knows. Forget about, okay, so almost like in silence will we access this library. Okay, I know what he means. Okay, just a moment here. In silence will we access this library. I'm letting go of my name and my face and my, like where I live. Like I'm letting go of the idea of even my existence and what even I've decided that existence is. It's like letting go that math exists, letting go that language or communication exists. Letting go of that form or place exists. Letting go of everything that we think we know about reincarnation or karma. Like letting go. Okay. Well, I say that there's nothing coming to me just yet. And he says that's because you've it's almost like your relationship with time. And I tell him, well, I really am working with time here because people can't just like I could sit here in silence for the next 2,000 days, and I mean there's only a limit here on what Joe and I can do. So I'm just like, Albert, dude, there's only so much time really. And if we're working on something inconceivable, he says that I decided that to discover something inconceivable will take time. You know, this is interesting because I had a dream. And in this dream, there was basically like a demonic being. And I was very patient. And I was sending light and love into this being. And I was very patient throughout the dream. It was just intuitively doing it. And I was kind of aware in the dream too. Because when I woke up, I was confused because I could not transform this demon. And I was told the reason why I couldn't transform the demon is because I decided that it would take time. And truly, in our human world, there is a translation period between what, like if I do energy healing, how it's going to reach you and how you're going to digest it in time. And then that digestion process helps you to grow to the next inconceivable level of yourself. What was an inconceivable level? Because you weren't there yet. You hadn't become conceived as it yet. And he's, Albert's like, yes, like he's saying, okay, this is the next thing, this makes sense. Conceived, the mother conceives, and now she is pregnant to give birth to a child. Child can't conceive of their future because they're instinct. They're living with instinct here. They can't conceive of, they're watching and digesting information, and then they're growing into their conceived of self. But we will forever in our lives be evolving into the next inconceivable version of ourself, where we have been conceived as it through the digestion of everything that we have processed, subconsciously, consciously, unconsciously. And Albert says it is inevitable that we will evolve into inconceivable spaces of awareness and learning that has never been discovered yet, forevermore even. And that's exciting because we are all digesting this information. Like you guys and me with Joe's journey, I'm digesting this information and I'm evolving to the next inconceivable version of myself because I can't conceive of who I am to become. I will just become it. I will be conceived as it through the digestion of it. And so it's almost like the future. What is the future exactly? What does that even mean? What does it actually mean? It's not what our perceived relationship with time is. It's the inconceivable, this growth, this digestion period evolves us into the next inconceivable reality, which is what we define as time. So that's what he's saying. I'm just going to chill for just another minute and see what else he'd like to share. And then, all right, so this is the final message. I sat in silence on floor number 2 and I didn't know what was there. And I had to allow a digestion period to take place, but I also had to acknowledge that I don't know. I had to acknowledge I don't know and I feel defeated and I'm up against time. So in acknowledging the things that were the factor, the variables of my challenge, it was helping me to evolve to the next level of this message. If I wasn't willing to acknowledge those things, I would have remained saying, I don't know. That's the end of this message with Albert Einstein. But I didn't give up, right? I was able to admit these things. Through the conversation, new ideas came forward. Where did those ideas come from? They were real to me, which helped me to bridge gaps, right? To really understand. So before Joe and I did this video, we didn't conceive of ourselves through the process and digestion of what we've learned here. And you guys too. You watching this video, you're becoming the next inconceivable version of yourself that is becoming conceived of through the digestion of these exchanges, which is so precious. And what helps time exist and what helps us evolve is these exchanges. That's what creates the synapses. That's what creates the activity, is the exchanges. And the value of that and how we value that helps us to literally grow. This is literally what he's saying. And it almost seems to me that time is only as real as the inevitable growth of the meaning of ourselves through our relationship with what we would define as real or not real, or all of it is real, is full of stepping stones that are helping us to grow, which is expanding or actually creating our relationship with time. Maybe that's why souls in eternity, it's eternity, because when you're incarnate, you're growing. I mean, it's just an idea. And maybe that's why we have a relationship with time here, because we're growing.
It's just, when you start getting into that type of energy and the understanding, it is mind-blowing. It's like you start to understand the complexity of everything, and then you realize that this is a time, literally a drop of water in a pond, and literally however long it takes the water to hit the edge of the pond is our lifetime. If not even faster. It could simply be like that. I think these messages really show the vastness of our souls. Man, my throat's pretty bad.
This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do this because Joe and his light language, and when he gets into it, it has a physical impact.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and you guys feel free to comment, and the next time that we're able to make a message together, then we'll share some responses to support you all and do some more journeys.
Yeah, this is awesome. Nice. Next time.
Yeah, so just to give you a couple locations where you can find us, I have a website. I do sessions. That gives me an opportunity to help you personally. I can psychically analyze anything you have going on there. AbbeyNormalsWisdomQuest.com. I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/AbbeyNormalsWisdomQuest.
I'm RossAwakening.com, and you can Yukon Skies is a new thing I'm doing right now, which is touring on the weekends off if and stuff like that. There's also a spiritual aspect of it, and it could be customized whatever way you want.
So I'm going to really emphasize what he just said there. If any of you have ever wanted to go see the Northern Lights, you're welcome to come to the Yukon, and Joseph would love to take you out, and I can participate in that too. We can have some spiritual discussions. We haven't added that into...
It's there, but we haven't really...
We talked about it. We don't know how to incorporate it. So, but at least it would be fun to, have an opportunity to mark that off your bucket list. So yukonskies.com is Joseph's touring business.
Yeah, and it's I think the simple thing is it's customizable, and I think that's the way it needs to be kept, because when you're doing any type of spiritual stuff, it has to be customizable to meet the person's needs. And and also my Northern Lights page at or Joseph Bradley Auroras. I got
JosephBradleyAuroras.com.
It shows how much I love to advertise myself. I'm horrible at it. Need to work on that. Always have. Anyway, guys, thank you very much.
Yes,
and ladies, thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.